The priest smiled, that warm, gentle smile that's probably in the job description, and lifted the silver shell filled with holy water over my daughter's head. The church was silent, filled with the soft afternoon light filtering through the stained glass windows. My husband, Mark, had his arm around me, and I was holding our perfect, 3-month-old baby, who was miraculously not screaming her head off. It was a perfect moment. And so, the priest's voice echoed slightly in the nave. I baptize thee, Eleanor Grace. That's when all hell broke loose. From the front pew, a sharp, piercing shriek cut through the sacred silence. No, that's not her name. Every head in that church whipped around to face my mother-in-law, Margaret. She was standing, her face a mask of pure fury, her knuckles white as she gripped the back of the pew in front of her. Her voice, shaking with rage, dropped to a venomous hiss that everyone could still hear. Her name is Margaret. It has always been Margaret. Yeah, so, you're probably wondering how a sacred ceremony turned into a scene from a bad soap opera. I mean, seriously, who does that? Let me tell you, it all started the day we told her we were pregnant. To understand my mother-in-law, Margaret, you have to understand that she believes the world is a stage, and she is its star. Not just the star, but also the writer, director, and producer. The rest of us are just background actors, lucky to even be in her production. For as long as I've known my husband, Mark, his life has been a series of maneuvers to keep his mother happy, or at the very least, to keep her from going supernova. Her birthdays weren't just a day, they were a birth week, sometimes a birth month, requiring a series of tributes and events. If she got a new haircut, it was a topic of conversation for days. She wasn't a bad person, not really, just profoundly self-absorbed. The sun rose and set by her, and she expected everyone to have a compass pointed in her direction at all times. On the other side of the universe was my grandmother, Eleanor. She was the quiet moon to Margaret's blaring sun. Grandma Eleanor, who passed away 2 years before my daughter was born, was my everything. She was the one who taught me how to bake, who read me stories until her voice was hoarse, who held my hand through every scraped knee and every teenage heartbreak. She was gentle and kind, and she never, not once, made anything about herself. She was the calm in every storm. When she died, it left a hole in my heart so big I thought I'd never fill it. I knew, from the moment I started thinking about having kids, that if I ever had a daughter, I would name her Eleanor. It wasn't even a question. It was a promise I had made to myself, a way to keep a piece of her with me forever. Mark knew this. We'd talked about it years before we even got married. He loved the name, and more importantly, he loved the reason behind it. He knew how much my grandmother meant to me. What we didn't know, what we couldn't possibly have prepared for, was the collision course we were on with Planet Margaret. The first tremor happened at a family dinner where we decided to announce the pregnancy. We'd just gotten past the first trimester and were bursting with excitement. We got everyone together at our favorite Italian restaurant. After the appetizers arrived, Mark stood up, clinked his glass, and with a grin that stretched from ear to ear, he told everyone we were expecting. The table erupted. There were cheers, hugs, happy tears. It was wonderful. My father-in-law, a quiet man who spent most of his life as a professional shock absorber for his wife's personality, gave me a huge, warm hug. But Margaret's reaction was something else. Her eyes lit up, and she clapped her hands together with a deafening crack. "Oh, this is it. This is finally it," she declared to the whole table. "I've waited so long for this." She then looked right at me, her eyes boring into mine. "I simply cannot wait to have a little Margaret running around. A little Maggie. It's going to be perfect." Mark and I exchanged a nervous glance. I gave a little, tight laugh. "Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, Margaret. We don't even know if it's a boy or a girl yet." She just waved her hand dismissively, as if I'd said something silly, like the sky wasn't blue. "Oh, please. I have a feeling. It's a girl. And she will be my little namesake. It's tradition." Mark mumbled something like, what tradition?" But Margaret was already on a roll, talking about all the things she would buy for little Maggie, the places they would go. It was like she wasn't just planning a grandchild, she was casting the lead in her own biopic. We just let it slide. You know? We figured she was just excited. We were so naive. A couple of months later, we had the gender reveal. It was a small thing, just family in our backyard. We had a cake with colored filling. I was so excited I could barely stand it. My dad cut the cake and it was pink. A girl. I burst into tears and Mark swung me around in a hug. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. Everyone was cheering, but then I saw Margaret. She wasn't just happy, she looked triumphant. She strode over to us, holding a large, gaudily wrapped gift box. I knew it, she said, thrusting the box into my arms. I told you my mother's intuition is never wrong. I opened it, and my smile faltered. Inside was a ridiculously expensive-looking silver baby cup, the kind of thing you never actually use. And engraved on the side in looping, fancy script was the name, Margaret. My heart sank. This wasn't just excitement anymore. This was a full-blown campaign. I looked at Mark, and I could see the panic in his eyes. He cleared his throat. Mom, this is very generous. But you know, we haven't actually decided on a name yet. Margaret just laughed, a high, tinkling sound that grated on my nerves. Oh, Mark, don't be coy. We all know what her name will be. What else could it be? It's perfect. She then turned to my mom and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, isn't it wonderful? To have the family name carried on. My own mother, a polite woman who avoids conflict at all costs, just gave a weak, non-committal smile. The air got thick with unspoken tension. Later that night, after everyone had left, I turned to Mark. We have to say something. This is getting out of hand. She's not just suggesting it anymore, she's acting like it's a done deal. Mark ran his hands through his hair. I know. I'll talk to her. I'll be gentle, but I'll make it clear. The next week, he called her. I could hear his side of the conversation. It was all very calm and reasonable. Mom, we love you and we're so glad you're excited, but we've had another name picked out for a girl for a very long time. Yes, it's a family name. No, it's from her side of the family. Mom, that's not fair. He hung up the phone with a deep sigh. Well, I asked. She thinks it's a phase, he said, looking defeated. She said that I'm just trying to appease you, and that when the baby comes, I'll come to my senses and agree to the right name. She literally said I need to honor my own mother. My blood started to simmer. Honor her? What about honoring me? The person who was, actually growing the human? What about honoring the memory of the woman who raised me? But I took a deep breath. Okay, I said. Okay. She's in denial. She'll get over it when the baby is actually here and has a name. A name that is not Margaret. The next big event was the baby shower, hosted by my sister. It was beautiful. The theme was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, with moons and stars everywhere. It was perfect. And then, Margaret arrived. She swept in like royalty, followed by my FL carrying an enormous box. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what she was holding. It was a huge, professionally printed banner. It was supposed to be the centerpiece behind the gift table. My sister had made a beautiful one that said, Twinkle, twinkle, little star, we can't wait to know who you are. Margaret, with a grand flourish, unrolled the one she had brought. It read, in giant, sparkling pink letters, celebrating Margaret and her granddaughter. My sister's face fell. I just stared, completely dumbfounded. Not celebrating the baby. Not celebrating the parents. Celebrating her. She acted like she was the guest of honor. My sister, bless her heart, tried to intervene. Oh, Margaret, that's nice. But we already have a banner. Margaret looked at my sister's sweet, handmade banner with disdain. Oh, that's cute, dear. But this one is much more celebratory. And she just directed her husband to hang it up, right over my sister's. I was seeing red. I mean, literally, my vision was tinged with it. Then came the gifts. Every single person had brought lovely, thoughtful things from our registry. Then came Margaret's turn. She insisted on going last. Her huge box was opened to reveal a mountain of gifts. A baby blanket, hand-stitched with the name Margaret. A set of gold-rimmed baby dishes, each piece with a giant M on it. A music box that played Brahms' Lullaby, and when you opened it, there was a plaque inside that said, To little Maggie, from her grandmere. It was a hostile takeover of my baby shower. She was marking her territory. She wasn't giving gifts to my daughter, she was branding her. I felt a panic attack coming on. I made my excuses and fled to the bathroom, trying to breathe. My sister followed me. "Are you okay?" she asked, her eyes full of concern. "No, I'm not okay," I whispered, tears welling up in my eyes. "She's insane. She's trying to name my baby. She's hijacking everything." "I know," my sister said, rubbing my back. "She's a piece of work. But don't let her ruin your day. This is about you and your daughter, not her." I managed to pull myself together and go back out there, but the rest of the shower was a blur. All I could see was that stupid banner and that pile of monogram gifts. When Margaret left, she gave me a hug and whispered in my ear, "Don't you worry. You'll thank me one day for giving her such a strong, classic name." That night, I told Mark that we were past the point of gentle conversations. "This is a declaration of war, Mark. Your mother is trying to bully me, and she is trying to erase my grandmother. We have to shut this down. Hard." Mark's face was grim. He had seen it all happen, and the denial he'd been clinging to was finally gone. He knew this was a serious problem. "You're right," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I'm sorry I let it get this far. I'm ending this, for real, tomorrow." He went to their house the next day alone. I don't know exactly what was said, but I know it was a huge fight. He told me he laid it all out. "Mom, you are being incredibly disrespectful to my wife and to me. You are overstepping in a massive way. We are the parents. We will name our child. Her name is going to be Eleanor. It is not, and will never be, Margaret. This is not up for discussion. If you cannot accept that, you will not be a part of her life." According to Mark, this is when the waterworks started. The accusations flew. "How could you do this to me? After all I've done for you. You're choosing her family over your own blood. That woman is turning you against me." She apparently sobbed that her legacy was being erased, that she would be a forgotten old woman. It was a masterclass in emotional manipulation. Mark, for the first time in his life, didn't fall for it. He held his ground and left. The next 2 months were an icy cold war. Margaret wouldn't speak to me at all. She'd send Mark passive-aggressive texts about how her heart was broken. We tried to ignore it. We just wanted to focus on the baby's arrival. And then, she was here. Our daughter, Eleanor Grace. She was perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and a little tuft of dark hair. The moment they placed her in my arms, nothing else mattered. All the drama with Margaret just melted away. We were a family. We posted the announcement on social media. A picture of her tiny hand gripping my finger. "Welcome to the world, Eleanor Grace. We love you more than words can say." The comments poured in. "Congratulations, she's beautiful, we love the name." And then, there it was. A comment from Margaret. "So thrilled to finally meet my precious granddaughter. I'm sure we'll find a name that truly suits her soon. Can't wait for all the cuddles." My jaw dropped. Publicly. She was publicly disrespecting our choice and invalidating our daughter's name. In front of all our friends and family. It was a direct hit. I felt a rage so pure and cold it took my breath away. That right there was the breaking point. The last straw. The point of no return. It only got worse. In the family group chat, she would only refer to Eleanor as the baby. When we sent a picture of her, Margaret would reply, "She's so cute. Little Maggie is going to be a heartbreaker." Mark would immediately reply, "Her name is Eleanor." Margaret would just send a smiley face emoji. But the final, unforgivable act came a week later. A card arrived in the mail from one of Mark's aunts who lived out of state. Inside, she had written, "Congratulations on the birth of little Margaret. She's absolutely beautiful. Your mom sent us the most lovely announcement card." My blood ran cold. I called the aunt. I asked her, as calmly as I could, to describe the card. And she did. It was a picture of our daughter, one we had sent to the family, on a professionally printed card. And under the picture it said, "Introducing Margaret Rose, our last name. Proudly welcomed by her grandmother, Margaret." She had invented a middle name and sent out a fake birth announcement. She had tried to retcon our daughter's identity to fit her own narrative. When I showed it to Mark, he went completely pale. The last bit of his "but she's my mom" defense crumbled into dust. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of horror and resolve. "That's it," he said. "I'm done. We're done." We decided to go ahead with the christening, though. It was already planned. My parents had flown in, and a part of me, a stupid, naive part of me, thought that maybe, just maybe, seeing her granddaughter be officially named in a church, in front of everyone, would be the final nail in the coffin of her delusion. It would force her to accept reality. Oh, what a fool I was. She had confirmed she was coming, which we took as a sign of a truce. A white flag. She arrived at the church dressed in a cream-colored suit, looking for all the world like the benevolent matriarch. She smiled, she made small talk. She even held Eleanor for a moment, whispering something in her ear that I couldn't hear. I thought, maybe Mark's ultimatum got through to her. Maybe she finally understood. We were all sitting in the pews. Our family on one side, Mark's on the other. Everything was going smoothly. The hymns were sung, the prayers were said. Eleanor was being a perfect angel in my arms. Then the priest called us up to the font. We stood there, the proud parents. The church was quiet. I could feel everyone's eyes on us, on our beautiful baby girl. I felt a surge of love so powerful it almost knocked me over. This was my daughter, Eleanor, named for the best woman I ever knew. The priest took her gently from my arms. He smiled at us. He sprinkled the water on her tiny forehead. And he said the words, "I baptize thee, Eleanor Grace." And that's when the bomb went off. No, that's not her name. Margaret's scream ripped through the reverent atmosphere. It was so shocking, so out of place, that for a second, nobody moved. The priest froze, his hand still in the air. The baby, startled by the noise, let out a terrified wail. Margaret was on her feet, her face contorted with a rage that was terrifying to behold. "Her name is Margaret," she yelled, pointing a trembling finger at the priest, at us, at the baby. "You are disrespecting this entire family. You are erasing me. She is a Margaret. That is her name." The whole congregation was just staring, mouths agape. My own mother looked like she was about to faint. I was in total shock, just holding my screaming child, trying to process what was happening. My mind was a complete blank. But Mark wasn't. Something inside my husband, something that had been dormant for 35 years, finally woke up. He turned to his mother. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The look on his face was enough to freeze fire. "Mom," he said, and his voice was low and dangerous. "Sit down. Now. Don't you use that tone with me," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "I am your mother. This is my grandchild. I have rights." "You have no rights," Mark said, taking a step towards her. "Not anymore. You are embarrassing yourself, and you are ruining your granddaughter's christening. Get out." "Get out?" She stammered, looking genuinely stunned, as if the concept of her being told what to do was a foreign language. "Yes," Mark said, his voice flat and devoid of all emotion. "Get out of this church. Right now. Or so help me God, I will have the ushers remove you." You could have heard a pin drop. Margaret's face went from red to white. She looked around, as if expecting someone to leap to her defense. But no one did. Her own husband, my FL, was just staring at the floor, his face buried in his hands, the very picture of humiliation. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. A choked sob escaped her. And then she turned, and with as much dignity as she could muster, she stalked down the aisle and out the heavy oak doors, which slammed shut behind her, the sound echoing through the silent church. My father-in-law got up, gave us a look of profound apology, and followed her out. The priest, to his credit, recovered quickly. He cleared his throat, gave us a shaky but reassuring smile, and finished the ceremony. The rest of it was a blur. The reception afterwards was the most awkward party I have ever attended. People didn't know what to say. They'd come up and congratulate us, then give us this pitying look. The fallout was immediate and messy. My phone and Mark's phone started blowing up with texts. Half were from his family, from the flying monkeys, telling us how cruel we were, how we had humiliated a poor, loving grandmother, how we needed to apologize immediately. The other half were from my family and our friends, telling us they couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed and asking if we were okay. Later that night, my FL called. He apologized over and over. He said he had never been more embarrassed in his life. He said Margaret was inconsolable, and that she was refusing to speak to Mark until we agreed to fix this. Fix what? Mark asked, his voice weary. She wants you to go to the courthouse tomorrow and legally change Eleanor's name to Margaret, my FL said quietly. There was a long pause. Then Mark just laughed. A short, bitter, humorless laugh. You tell her that's not going to happen. You tell her she made her choice today. And now we're making ours. And he hung up. We haven't spoken to her since. It's been 6 months. We went completely no contact. It was hard for Mark at first. There was a lot of guilt, a lot of grief for the mother he wished he had. But day by day, it's gotten easier. Our home is quiet. It's peaceful. There are no surprise visits, no passive-aggressive texts, no emotional landmines to navigate. There is just me, Mark, and our wonderful daughter, Eleanor. We get to be her parents, without anyone trying to co-opt our family. We hear things, of course. Through the family grapevine, we know that Margaret tells anyone who will listen that her cruel son and his manipulative wife have stolen her grandchild and forbidden her from seeing her, all because of a simple misunderstanding over a name. She's the victim, of course. She's always the victim. But you know what? We don't care. The people who matter, our real friends, and the family members who aren't completely insane, they know the truth. They were there. They saw it. Sometimes I think about that day in the church. The shock, the horror, the humiliation. But then I look at my daughter, my sweet Eleanor, and I know we did the right thing. We chose her. We chose our peace. We chose our own family. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. So yeah, that's how my daughter's christening party ended, with a screaming match and the banishment of her own grandmother. It was a complete disaster, but honestly, it was the best thing that ever could have happened to us. And if you think that was wild, you should hear about the stunt she tried to pull at Eleanor's first birthday. So, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you are not going to want to miss the next chapter in this crazy story.